Alright guys, TacticalRab here again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. A very interesting day of Call of Duty with the Rokkr home series going on in Wisconsin. 2 wins for the Minnesota Rokkr and their chief challengers for qualification for the World Championship in the Las Vegas Legion. Not at all happy with how this has been able to happen. Believe that it shouldn't have got ahead at all. And even Scump and Method suggesting that this is pretty overpowered for the home team. What do you guys think in the comment section below? Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Nice little April Fool's here from the flank to start out the video, but let's dive right into this. So today it was honestly really cool to see this be done, and I do hope that we get more of this from other teams in the future. But from the pro player perspective, this is definitely a controversial one because the teams that actually attended, the players might not really have had a say on this. I guess it was their organizations that chose for them to attend. And look, fundamentally the pros have been asking for years, and I think they still probably would like to play all of these qualifier games on LAN. That is preferable. Back in the day, it used to be done at the studios in Columbus, Ohio, where they used to play the league matches, no fans, no crowd or anything, but at least they were done on LAN in a more fair competitive environment than online, where the teams generally don't particularly like it. Now, Rokkr decided, right, we'll do this on LAN. I believe Rokkr probably wanted to host their own major again, but either the CDL turned down their bid or whatever, so they decided, you know what, we'll still do something for our local fans. And Rokkr, the best team, I think, in the CDL, hands down, really, and local fan activations, have put together 2 of these, one here in Wisconsin, one next month in Minnesota itself, to bring a couple of teams in, play and work with the CDL to get them to play 2 matches in one day so they can do it in front of a crowd. Really cool idea, really great stuff, and I do hope we see more of this in the future. I wonder though whether any team in the future is going to agree to do this ever again, because the teams are not happy about this, well, the result of this. So as Clayster says, I find it a bit fugazi how we're chasing down Rokkr and they get to play 2 matches in one day in front of a home crowd on LAN. Where is the integrity in this league? Now, this is an interesting question from Clayster, and you can totally understand Clayster's perspective. He's trying to chase down Rokkr. They get what is clearly a home crowd advantage. Now, look, we see every major cycle, it's on LAN in front of a crowd, which there is going to be a team favored. If it's in Boston, Boston are going to be favored by the crowd to a certain degree. Obviously, OpTic's major, obviously Minnesota's major before, Toronto, all goes on. There was actually a big talking point last year at the World Championship in LA, where, like, did LA Thieves get kind of an unfair advantage there, which they won because they had the LA home crowd. So obviously it's always a factor at every event. The teams have to bid to host an event. Vegas, Legion, they don't have the money to bid to host an event, and they also don't have the money or the willingness to put something like this on. The Rokkr did. Vegas, if they had the money or the willingness, could have done something like this, but of course they're not going to. And fundamentally, Rokkr are just trying to push the CDL in a better and more positive direction by actually giving their fans something to watch on a more regular basis. So they've been planning this for a long time. They reached out to the teams on these particular weekends. So today it was Los Angeles, Guerrillas, and Florida, worked with the league to get 2 games to be played in one day. And already, right, that's interesting because Rokkr play 1 game, then they're nicely warmed up after the first match they played it for the second game. So, you know, already you start to see where that advantage for what is a set of qualification games is pretty extreme in some senses. And obviously we'll see the results the Rokkr had today, but I think they probably wouldn't have been as comfortable in their victories had it been done online in no setting like this. But also you've got to say that the integrity is already not perfect, because the games that are played in these online qualifiers, yes, over the course of the season they should average out to being relatively equal in terms of strength of schedule, but sometimes teams just get screwed. They play a hard set of 5 games, another team plays an easy set of 5 games, and then by the time that team gets to play their hard set of 5, the hard teams that were good back then are actually not even very good anymore. So, you know, that's the controversial thing. The format already isn't great with the few games that are played. So it's already not perfect, right? But Clayster was not happy, right? He says the crowd is definitely going to give them basically some degree of advantage. And also, as he replies here to Ben, I don't care about cool local events and awareness. I care about my team having a fair shot at making champs, and this is only hurting us. Now, you know, Clay's perspective here is pretty out there, right? Just like, I don't absolutely care at all about these cool local events, which I can understand from a competitive perspective. Clay wants nothing more than to get this team to the World Championship, and anything that restricts that by giving Rokkr some degree of advantage is, you know, arguably unfair on the rest of the league. Then again, Rokkr have obviously paid to make this happen. The other teams agreed to go and do it, and fundamentally, the players, I would have thought, would have preferred to play on LAN in front of the fans that actually allow them to have a job, rather, okay, maybe it's not their fans, but you know what I mean? Like, they've been asking for a LAN for a long time. And I mean, I guess these players would prefer to play online with, online is worse than LAN. The players certainly agree to that one, but I guess they'd prefer to play online from the comfort of their own rooms or their facility, as opposed to playing on LAN, which they would surely want to do, but in front of a crowd that isn't their crowd, despite the fact that they do that every major anyway most of the time. So very interesting, right? And as Method said, it's super unfair to every other player in the league that they get to play 2 in one day. And as Clay says, like, I'm not blaming Rokkr. I agree with what you said. Cool for the events, but it's bad for every other player in the league that they get unfair treatment. Now, it's an interesting one for Clay, right? Because did they get unfair treatment, or did they just ask to do it? The league agreed, Florida and Los Angeles Guerrillas agreed, and now they're making it happen, right? It's not exactly unfair necessarily because no other team wanted to do it, but I can see where he's come from with it being unfair, right? I would certainly feel aggrieved if I was in Clayster's shoes as well. And as he says, like, Rokkr and you guys are talking to Oxygen here from the Boston side have done a great job in building the local fan bases. Boston done a great job as well, and Rokkr certainly have also. And as he says, I'm a bit mad as a competitor, and I can certainly understand that, right? And look, I'll also share here what Scump and Methods have to say, and also Clay says, like, imagine being LAG and having to play Rokkr right after they just played a series before and getting iced for a couple of hours. Like, that's just not necessarily fair to LA Guerrillas. Now, in fairness, when we look at that series in a few minutes' time, they squandered some chances in that series, and there's a good chance the Rokkr would have won both these series regardless. Here's what Scum and Methods have to say.
Ooh. What's your opinion on Rokkr playing twice in one day tomorrow?
It's bull.
Thank you.
Why? Are they giving you trouble? I was
talking about it, and they were saying L take, and I'm like, it's a pretty it's pretty clear cut. I don't think you can even. It's pretty logical.
I mean, the people that are saying that have also, they don't understand, like, the feeling when you're competing. Like, after you play a match, like, that first match of the day sometimes, like, you're kind of working the cobwebs out. If you get 2 matches in a day, that's why I prefer the old system, because you get more matches and people get comfortable. To play 2 matches in one day, it just, you either build momentum, integrally not 100% fair.
It's great for the scene, great for the fans, great for the CDL.
Yeah.
Unfair to the rest of the team's players.
Correct.
That's my opinion on it.
My opinion.
It's great for everybody. Besides the players that they're playing against in the second series. It really only matters for the second series.
Give me the teams again that are there.
Well, and it's not fair to the teams that are in the running to make champs, who are competing with Rokkr to make champs.
Yeah. People say it's not that deep, but it is that deep.
As a player, it is that deep.
So what do you guys think about this, right? I kind of agree with Methods' statement where, look, it's a cool event, it's good for the scene, and I do hope we can get more of this, but the players aren't going to be happy from a competitive perspective, and you can understand that as well. So it's a tricky one, right? The ideal is all of these online qualifiers are done kind of, on LAN in front of maybe a neutral crowd or something like that, but obviously, as I say before, the entire online qualifier format is already inherently unfair based on the different strength of schedules teams have. So, already you're fighting an uphill battle, I suppose. I don't really believe in the grand scheme of things this would have made that much difference. And as Brett Diamond says from Minnesota, Rokkr, this is about more than one event. It's about creating a path to more LAN events for any and all teams that want to host by building the local fan base and proving a business model. So yeah, if this works for Rokkr, it can work for other teams. And hopefully we'll see more teams do this in the future, to which point, because it's shared around the league, we then don't get this kind of unfairness, let's say, that Rokkr maybe experienced by being the only team to do this season. Let's then talk about the series. Now, they destroyed Florida Mutineers here, but I will say, Florida were atrocious, right? I mean, this was bad from them. I think that player like this, they would have lost online, and maybe part of it was getting checked out by the crowd, but, still, Rokkr were not going to be as bad as they were in Major 2, pretty much, or Major 3, sorry, pretty much whatever they did here was going to be better than how they performed last time around. The fame change seemed to make their pacing better, I will say. That's it, as he played phenomenal this series as well in the entire day, so that certainly seems promising for them. And even the former Rokkr team, I think on their day should probably have been the favourites here against Florida and Los Angeles Guerrillas. They take them down with no problem at all. Game 1, Game 2, 6-3. They finally won a search and destroy as well, and they won the control without too much difficulty. Doug was, kind of joking around a bit, being a bit sarcastic, but giving Fame a lot of credit for his phenomenal performance in this series, and they take the dub, go into a round 5 in the end, but it was enough. Cammy went off this map as well, and Cap still had an absolute stink about this guy was 12 and 36, triple negative for the loss. This guy was getting hawked on, and Afro Afro and FaZe were delivering the goods on the other side. And FaZe's 1.50 series KD is the second ever highest debut series KD in the CDL era. Standy with a 1.52, I guess, when he joined Minnesota Rokkr back in the day. So both of these for Rokkr, which is pretty interesting, and then both of these for Toronto. But as Nameless says, Rokkr got that home buff. Now, I think they'd have won this series anyway, and that I got the 10 points because Florida were just atrocious. But still, it's interesting, right? And Arcitys says shortly afterwards, real talk to what Clayster says, that, you know, imagine being LAG and having to play Rokkr, etc., etc. Like, Arcitys clearly went into his series in a bit of a weird headspace, thinking, well, you know what, this is a bit unfair. Maybe his organization agreed to do it, but the players, you know how the players are, would more than likely have said no. So, you know, even he says, loved seeing this as an LAG member playing Rokkr later, that they've just fried in their first series, and Arcitys and co go in knowing they're going to have an uphill battle. But look, it happens on the majors all the time. I know that these qualifiers are slightly different, but, you know, it's not an uncommon phenomenon for a team to get hot in a bracket. Things are just slightly different now because what is effectively the group stage, which this is, used to be played on LAN with these settings in play, but now in the CDL era, it's kind of played over 3 weeks online, because it used to be played on the Friday, basically, and then they would stack the weekends into the final couple of days. These are the numbers. Afro, FaZe, great series from FaZe, but yeah, feel bad for Capsule. This guy flew out there to Wisconsin to play one series, get smoked in 40 minutes, and drop a 0.5 KD, so he's going to have a tough time on the flight home. The second series, though, going back to online here, of course, is between Boston and Toronto, and this is one of those series from Boston where they just have so much slaying power that sometimes it's going to work. Toronto's still the better team, but you know, Boston played great map 1, map 2, Beans was going off as well. Toronto really should have won this game too. They had so many chances to win this game too. They had a big lead. Boston brought it all the way back. Scrappy got 180 turned on here by Awakening as well. Beans was delivering the goods. His sniper is so good that it, especially on this map Hotel, that it is pretty scary to play against. So Scrappy got destroyed there, and then Ultra did start coming back. They won the control. They won the game for a hardpoint comfortably, but then game 5, Beans again took over, and Boston take down Toronto. Big bounce back from Boston, right? Because we wondered after they lost to Vegas what's going on there. And look, in fairness, we said yesterday, if FaZe aren't S tier after losing to the New York Subliners, then are Toronto S tier, and now they lose today. And you think, well, you know, Toronto, maybe they're just only an A tier team, right? And maybe there are no S tier teams right now because everyone seems beatable. But yeah, this series, I'm sure Toronto feel like they should have probably done a better job in certainly that game too. But great result for Boston. Big bounce back from them. Played how we practiced. So we know Boston are very good. Like, I feel like after the Vegas series, people were underrepresenting how good Boston can be, but it's the consistency that is always going to let down this team, as we saw yesterday. Series numbers pretty even across the board. Rare series in recent memory where CleanX doesn't have a 1.1 or above, and you're not expecting that every single time, but when it doesn't happen, the team does certainly have a harder time winning series. Now, this was the final series I want to cover in this video, which was LA Guerrillas versus Minnesota Rokkr. Now, JoeDeceives absolutely fried them game 1, and this is the thing, right? They were meant to come into the series, theoretically, the Rokkr, super hot, right? They just won the first series earlier in the day. You'd have thought that I'd come in here swinging, but no, JoeDeceives shuts them down. The Rokkr crowd was getting loud. This as well was one of the maddest things I've ever seen in Call of Duty history. Like, what? Okay, I don't even understand what I'm watching on my screen, but Fame watches JoeDeceives walk up the stairs and then it gets killed by him because I don't know what he was thinking here, right? Just JoeDeceives comes up the stairs in front of him. Fame is looking right at him. He must think that that's his teammate or something, right? He must think that. I don't really know why, but or he's just super focused in the distance here on assault that he just has so much tunnel vision that he doesn't even notice JoeDeceives to his left. I don't know what happened there, but that was absolutely madness, to be honest. Anyway, Rokkr win the game 3. Then somehow LA Guerrillas, after having so many chances to take this control, they choke it away. Rokkr take the control, and then they dominate the final hardpoint of the series as well. So that was one where LA Guerrillas will feel like they shoulda, coulda, woulda won and all this stuff. And but yeah, Minnesota Rokkr take advantage of the mistakes that LA Guerrillas made. And these were 2 series that I'd have expected Rokkr to win online, I think, anyway, with the new honeymoon buff period. But with the fans in place, a 6-1 map count on the day and 20 points secured is a very big deal for the organization in terms of champs qualification. Bance had a shocker in the control, but he did bounce back in fairness in the map 4 of the series. But Standy, obviously, on the Vegas side, was not happy about this, right? And you can understand it because he's sitting there like, well, hang on a second here. These lads just got 20 points in a single day. And all of a sudden, it's now 30 points, right? The gap between Vegas and Rokkr in terms of qualification. So, you know, it gets even more difficult for them. And I can understand why they feel aggrieved. And even Arcity's like good night Twitter, because he obviously wasn't happy at all about either the way they played or certainly like the hand they were dealt, I suppose, in this way. So a very big couple of points for Rokkr there. They do play though Thieves, Subliners, FaZe to close out the stage. So there is a very reasonable chance for Rokkr that they just end with 2 victories. And if that is the case, then Vegas still have a big chance to catch up. I would have expected Rokkr anyway going into this stage, looking at their schedule, to go 2-3, 3-2. So you know, Vegas could go 4-1 if not better. So they're still going to need to, but I don't think in the grand scheme of things this should matter that much. But maybe if this happened online, they lose the Los Angeles Guerrillas series, and that 10 points down the line could be very important indeed. So honestly, I think it's great for the fans that are in attendance. I love what Rokkr are trying to do here, but I can understand why the pros are frustrated about it, and maybe there needs to be, you know, an alternative, or other teams need to get involved so that this can take place on a more consistent basis, where the teams and the fans and the players are actually all kind of down and on board with it as well. But intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. These are the numbers. I thought it was crazy actually. Cammy, I thought, was kind of frying the series, but he had a 0.8 apparently. But JoeDeceives, man, this guy was on crack. He dropped a 1.5 for the loss, and I mean, that is a pretty ugly scoreboard if you're a Los Angeles Guerrillas fan. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.